Alright guys, back doing something a little different today from what I normally do on my channel. My mower's been running really slow and pushing the accelerator down or gas, whatever you want to call it. It's still not accelerating and there's no power. I went and replaced the actual drive belt. I'll show you what I have going on here so far. I went and replaced the drive belt a while back. That's the blue belt you see hanging there. Still no improvement in the speed, even though that belt actually needed to be replaced. So I did a little more research and I found out that the secondary drive belt is if this thing starts to go bad, then it'll cause you issues as well, where it doesn't really want to climb or have any power to it. So I'll list this part here in the description for where you can find it. I ended up getting it on eBay. I think it was like 85 bucks for everything, new pulley, new belt. So now with all that being said, I did keep the original belt on when I replaced it. I didn't drop the transmission on this when I originally did it. I literally just got in between the gas tank. There's a cross member that comes across. It's this clip here. If you undo that, it's a 10mm bolt. You can get into it, but in compressing the spring, not gonna lie, it's gonna be a pain in the ass. Some of the people I've seen went and used a zip tie method, which works to compress the spring, but you're always left with the zip tie in between the actual spring and the gear itself. And the problem with this gear on the John Deere, especially the 105 autos or the 100 series, is this washer, this whole unit actually spins, and this screw will actually work its way right through. It'll basically grind its way through. So if you have a John Deere 100 series and you're at about 100 hours, a little over 100 hours, definitely you're probably going to be wanting to look at replacing this whole unit, because they say they're normally only good for like 108 to 118 hours. So, but I'm still having an issue where it doesn't want to accelerate, so I'm actually just gonna not half-ass it and just go full throttle on this damn thing and do it correctly. So decided to drop the rear transmission, which, believe me, it sounded intimidating. All I normally work on is cars and motorcycles and trucks. There's 6 points of contact that you're gonna have for this. You're gonna have a bolt here, which is a 10mm, which will be on this bracket. On the other side, you're gonna have another bracket, which is going to be a 10mm bolt. Once you undo those, you're still gonna have a good bit of restraint holding the transmission up. And that'll be due to the 4 larger bolts that go in here and bolt into this part of the frame. Once you do that, I fully took out 2, one on each side, loosened the last 2 to the point of all but being out, for the simple fact that when you're looking at the transmission, you're gonna have this set spring. Sorry, I'm going to sit this down just to snap it on to give you a pretty good idea. You want to have that set spring across like so. Then you're gonna have these weird cotter pins. One will actually go right there, and that'll be connected to this, your brake function. So the easiest way to get these off was where the circle is. I just lift up on the circle part of it with a pair of needle nose, and then you can just pop it out. This one, being that I could actually get to it pretty easy, this was super easy. So you'll have that. Right below it will be a washer, and then this, and that'll all be holding on. I believe it's the brake, the brake rod. Then you're gonna have one more, which is going to be holding on. Let me see if I can get to it to show you. It's gonna be holding on to this bracket right here. Looking at it, it might look a little intimidating, but if you have yourself a set of standard needle nose, it'll be pretty easy. So you're gonna have one more of these stupid clamps, which is going to be essentially over this piece here. So you'll pop that off, and then it'll slide off. One force of habit I always do, whatever side I take a part off on, especially a tractor, I'll put that part in that wheel. Then I don't lose it, and I know it's to the left side of the tractor. So being in the new kit, or being that the new kit did send me a new pulley, now that I have this off, I might as well just say screw it and replace that pulley. Oh, that's cool. So now with that even being said more, I noticed an issue going on back here. I just found this hex bit, or hex bolt, hanging out down in here. So I was like, oh cool, I wonder what the hell that's from. Well, if you look, some of my issue might be the fact that this piece here actually isn't even, like, I just pulled out that second one, so that's not even connected. So that could be causing some of my driving issues, because it's not tight at all. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull both of those, the last two, off on this side, and move this belt keeper out of the way too. And since I got to do that anyway to replace the belt, and then I'm actually gonna put these back in, take this part off again, and I'll be able to compress the spring down now that I'm working with a little more room than like 3 inches, and not counting the tool in that area. So I'm gonna pause this, get that stuff taken care of, and then pick back up once I have the other belt put on, these 4 bolts back in place, and this back in place. The torque spec on this bit, or this screw essentially, is 19.1 foot-pounds. I don't know why they didn't make it 19, and how they had to make it a 0.1, but whatever, it's a John Deere thing. So they also call for a Loctite, which is basically the same equivalent to a blue permanent. So I'm going to throw that on there as well. So I'm going to pause the video and then pick back up. I don't have my kid out here to be my cameraman, so I can just keep working and explaining what I'm doing. So I'll do the work, pick it back up, and let you know if I run into any issues or something that'll make your life a little easier while you're doing it. All right, so we're all back together here, at least on the transmission end of it. So this Torx bit is going to be a T20. If you're replacing the belt, you're gonna want to have this belt as far forward as possible. So then there's a good bit of tension on this belt still, because when you tighten this down, it's actually gonna put tension on this belt. Easiest way to do that and to be able to get the best tension on the belt without this slipping back as you tighten this is to just undo these 4 bolts, or these 4 screws, completely let this thing slide forward to where your belt is as far forward as you could possibly get it. Then just hold your pulley in place and compress the spring down. I used an impact. It's a lot easier than trying to grab threads with a socket or a socket wrench. And then once you get that done, you can pull this back into position and just spin the transmission back towards you. Pull this back into position and put these 4 back in. So pretty much the part of it now is just reversing the process. Once I get everything as far as the transmission up in the place, I will pick the video up there. I may have to sit the camera down here and there to show you where everything goes, to give you a better visual picture of what's going on. So I'm going to get the transmission in place, get 1 bolt in the back of each of these to hold it, and then I'll put the 2 10mm in on the side, and then basically just show you where all of the like the circle type cotter pins go, and then how everything else connects into the transmission, so then you can get it back together the same way you took it apart. So all right, I'm gonna pause this and I'll pick it back up once I have the transmission in place, so I don't have to hold it there. All right, so now we're back at it. Once you get this back in, try and do this with one hand. This spring here, if you take a pair of needle noses, just lift up on it like so, it's going to give you a better access to this rod here. It just goes right around the back side of this hole here and just slides right back in. And that is where this comes back into play. So then so I can get her back on here with one hand. Oh, dropped it. So when you go to put it back on, it's pretty much gonna just go like that. There'll be a hole that you'll have to find, and then it'll just snap back in. Your second one will, oh, I might have screwed that up. Okay, so if you do what I just did, where your speed variant or brake, I'm not sure exactly where this goes without really tracing it, and I don't feel like getting into all that. But this rod here, It's actually supposed to go on the inside. So if you screw up like I just did, it's a pretty quick fix. So let me just turn this to hopefully, damn it, where you can kind of see what I'm about to do. So you can push up on the transmission. These transmissions are all plastic, so they're not super heavy at all. Actually, they're not really heavy at all. And I did throw a 10 millimeter in on this side of the bracket to hold it up, but I gotta undo that. So just undo that, give myself some slack, and now I should be able to drop this down a little more and just sneak that in behind there. And then you should be able to just slide that forward and sneak that rod back in. And then you'll pull that rod back just to take some stress off of that bolt and plastic on the other side. And then back, so I think it's on the back side. So I'll stagger the bolts. I have one on the back side of that over there now. So I'll put one on the front side of this one just to kind of stagger it and take some of the weight off. And I'm just going to throw this 10 millimeter back in here real quick just to help hold it up. Next, you're going to want to put this washer on, and just gotta locate this stupid hole. Okay, here's the hole. So if it's easier to go from the front side of it for you, by all means go that way. So same concept as the back. Once you get the hole or it in the hole, you can kind of turn it, because you see how it's like wide there, or in the shape of a Y. So you get it in the hole and just kind of turn it up, and it will just slip right into place. The next piece we have is our neutral and gauge switch. So that will go back in the back hole here. It actually just slides forward to bolt in. Oh, I'm a dumbass. I just put in the wrong one. This will go back into your neutral safety. Slides forward, and right beside the spring is a hole where this connects. Then what was on that is a retainer washer. So let me put this somewhat so it hopefully stays again, so I can use two hands to get this shit back on. Alright, so that just snaps into place just like that. Now that you have all of that stuff back on the crazy looking cotter pin, then you can take your spring here again, throw some vice grips on it, and then you'll just stretch it back over to this black knob that I'll show you here in 1 second. Provided I can do it with these needle noses. It's a lot easier to get that back cotter pin on. Alright, so we got the spring connected. what I ended up having to do was just back this bolt out again and undo the 10 millimeter, and then you can actually just get it with your hand, rather than sitting there trying to stretch it back into place when you can't really get vice grips on it. So pretty much everything else is back into place. You have the cotter pin in the back, cotter pin in the front with a washer, your neutral and gauge for the transmission. Other side, you really don't have a lot to put together. Your accelerator rod, that just snaps down. There's nothing that actually holds that into place. So now it's just a matter of putting the other two bolts you have left back into place. Orientation of how you put it doesn't really matter, because they're gonna tighten either way. So I will just throw the other two back in place. The nut's gonna be a 13 millimeter on both ends. I'll use a wrench and then my impact to get it tightened back up. The drive belt is back on the back side of the pulley in there that you can see. And I'll sit this down right here real quick. Get that in. And tighten that. I have a 10 millimeter for the other side that I have to put in. And tighten that. And now it'll just be a game of just impacting everything back in. I'll start with the 10 millimeters. Impact both 10 millimeters back in, and then switch it to the 13. And impact these back down. And I'll grab the other side. So all that's done. I'll show you how to put the wheel back on. It's pretty easy. It's basically a keeper that snaps in. So you can see what I'm showing you. It's basically a keeper. Your washer will go on, then your keeper, and then your yellow cap. So put the tire into place, and then I'll just pick up the camera real quick and show you what to do from there. One thing that will make your life a little easier inside your wheel is this square It's actually in the axle. If you match everything up, you just slide that right back into place. Slide it back in. Washer. And then your keeper ring or washer, whatever you want to call it. It'll snap down. So once you get those two on, then your little cap just kind of snaps over all of this. Sometimes the caps are a pain in the ass, but if you've gotten this far, I trust you'll be able to get this cap back on. So now you get your cap back on and you just basically repeat to the other side. Thanks for watching. If I come across anything else that I'm going to end up having to tear apart, tinker with, or fix or modify that isn't a vehicle like I normally do, going to be doing some videos on the wife's new GLI Autobahn edition. I think it's a 2.0 turbo, so changed the wheels a little bit, plasti dipped them, tinted tail lights. So I'll be doing a video on that, but I'm not going to get into this too much right now. So, all right, thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe.